I mean, honestly, like, and this is, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Like, I've said this to my parents even. Like, I feel like the education that you guys provided was more relevant than the education that I got in like 9 years of post-secondary. Um,
Wow.
because it was very directly targeted to putting dollars into my bank.
Hey everyone, really excited to speak with Jesse this week, who recently broke into Twilio. Jesse, awesome background and pretty unique career changing experience for you. I would love you to set the stage for everyone watching as to where you were before looking at tech sales, and we'll kick it off from there.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me, Eric and Chris. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here and to be at Twilio now and to be a graduate of TSA. It's really a privilege. So I was a classical musician for about 13 years before breaking into tech sales. I was classically trained as a pianist. That's what my undergraduate degree is in. And then most of my professional career was as an orchestral conductor. That's what my master's and doctorate are in. Basically, performing arts, as a lot of our viewers would probably know or assume, took a really hard hit during COVID and didn't bounce back that well afterward. So I made a switch to kind of music education sales in the B2C environment. Discovered higher levels about uh, 3 months ago from this recording, so end of December of 23, and have been working hard ever since, and absolutely loved everything about you guys' mentorship in the program. So.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. But credit to you for putting in all the work, and obviously it paid off. I'd love you to also maybe share some perspective. It sounds like you were kind of looking at this space for quite a while. Had you done anything in terms of applying yourself to tech sales opportunities before looking at training? I'd love to understand that.
Yeah, great question. So yes, absolutely. The phrase spray and pray and spray, or spray and pray. What is it? Yeah, spray and pray.
Yeah, pray and spray, pray and spray.
So I applied to about 500 different companies before finding TSA, before finding higher levels. I would say most of them were not in the tech sales space. A lot of them were in like retail management, territory management, which is what I was doing my previous employer. But yeah, toward the end of my process and right kind of before / as I was finding higher levels, I applied to a couple kind of tech SDR positions, and actually got one offer that you guys helped me kind of evaluate and stuff like that. But my approach completely 180 degrees shifted from the spray and pray to like very, very strategic targeting and showing the prospecting skill that SDRs need in the process. And I think that was like the huge difference maker.
Nice, I love that. And yeah, kudos to you. I know that, after having worked with you for a little while, I know that you do a lot of research. You're very, thorough, which I respect a lot. I'm the exact same way. I imagine you must have been looking at a couple of different courses before you kind of committed to higher levels. I guess, like, what made you join us specifically? Like, was there anything specific where you were like, oh, okay, like this just feels like a good fit? Or was there anything that drew you in specifically?
Yeah, I would say two main things. The first one was the live component. That was incredibly important to me because I do have a little bit more of a unique situation. I don't have an engineering degree. I don't have a marketing degree. And so I feel like there was less of a plug and play kind of mold for me to fit into. And I think a little bit before buying, or maybe right after buying, I don't remember, Eric, I DM'd you and said, hey, I'd like a one-on-one. And you said, actually, there's live coachings where you're going to learn from other students also. And, to a prospective candidate looking at higher levels, trust me, it's better. Like, one-on-one is very valuable, but the things I learned from other students that both of you and Ryan would coach them on, I took tons of notes and applied that to my own search too. So I would say that was the number one difference maker. The number two difference maker was that Eric, you are an AE, Chris, you were an SDR. Congrats on your new move, of course. But having people who like had recently or, somewhat recently done exactly what I was doing, it was kind of a no-brainer. He also ran an end of year discount. That wasn't a difference maker for me, but it definitely sealed the deal. It turned like, if you had not run that discount, I probably would have bought like within a couple of days. But honestly, I found higher levels. Actually, Eric, I found your YouTube channel first. I was watching your YouTube channel for a couple of weeks before I learned about higher levels, clicked higher levels, saw the discount, and bought within like 5 minutes, honestly.
Nice, nice. No, we're obviously very grateful that you did. You've been awesome inside the community. It's funny. I was just catching up with some other folks, and we are just talking about your offer. And yeah, everybody seemed to like you. You always had like a really positive attitude. So we really appreciate that. Obviously, like there's a lot of students inside the program at this point. I think like for somebody like yourself, where you're actually like willing to help out, where you actually willing to like provide guidance to other folks who literally, like you said, right? It's about finding folks who just recently went through this. Obviously, we've been through it, we're actively doing it, but you are like the true asset test because like you just went through the entire process. You are like, you got live feedback from the market just a couple of weeks or a month ago.
Yeah.
So we really do appreciate that. And I guess like having gone through the course, whether it's the live training, whether it's the, specific training that we have inside of it, I guess like, was there anything specific from a training perspective that was most valuable to you? Like we obviously spoke a little bit about like the interview workbook and different elements, but was there a specific segment that really just changed the game for you or that provided a little bit more value than the others perhaps?
No pun intended, because the Twilio segment, every time I say segment, I'm like, oh, that's both the company that I work for. And yeah, I would say absolutely the most valuable thing for me was the training on cold emailing, cold calling, and then the direct follow-ups that I had in several live meetings of where I literally brought my cold email exercise that I was doing for several companies and got feedback on it live. There's kind of a very direct and obvious through line from your kind of pre-recorded asynchronous content to the content that both of you and Ryan cover in the live sessions. So like I would read your cold email guidelines in terms of short subject line, pay attention to preview text, short CTA, don't dump 3 sentences of case study data, make it really short and sweet. All of these kind of pointers that are incredibly helpful, but are not super easy to execute, but then you train on the execution in the live call. Like the delivery structure of that in terms of learning an application and then executing in the interview process, and of course in the SDR job is like top notch.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, credit to you for also taking advantage of everything. And I know you are continually bringing all of these exercises to make sure you're thinking about it the right way. Always good to get good perspective. And I think that's a great transition too into, I know this could be a huge question. So maybe 2 or 3 major learnings from the interview process for anyone watching. I know you had some unique experiences along the way, but maybe 1 or 2 things you learned, and then 1 or 2 things that you think really set you apart at the finish line with Twilio at the end.
Awesome question. All right, so I would say something that I think my fellow higher levels classmates should definitely take away, and if you're considering on breaking in, is always ask for feedback and try to apply that feedback, especially from companies that reject you. And I'll say that's helpful both in terms of the practicality of it. Like, for example, one of the pieces of feedback that I got was for a first-time software buyer at a small to medium business, they might not be familiar with the SDR, AE, account manager structure. So you want to be really clear about what, basically, I assumed when I did a mock call, actually, I think this was with Twilio, and they said, like, I assumed that they knew me booking the next meeting meant that they were going to talk to an AE and possibly go down the road to a demo. And my interviewer said, hey, don't assume that, you're calling into a small medium business right now. Like, provide as much contextual information that is going to help your prospect. that was like a really good piece of feedback that I got. And I'll also say the more you ask for feedback and the more you show that you can apply that, the more that demonstrates the quality of coachability, which, you guys hammer home in higher levels is so important for what is, technically an entry level sales job. Your managers are going to want to see that you're going to be a sponge for information and that you're going to be able to apply and execute on that information.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. And I think what would be really cool too, I know we talked before recording about how, your experience for career changers, and especially how much your experience is very academic in nature. You felt that we really connected kind of your past experience, and oversimplifying here, but the theory of things into like actual practical how to make money. I'd love maybe if you could speak to how we kind of connected that gap, and maybe what advice you give to someone with some professional experience, career changing maybe a little bit later than a new college grad.
Sure. Yeah. So if it wasn't clear, I do have a doctorate. I have taught at universities I taught at universities for several years before making this career change. So, knowledge and education and learning styles and academia and stuff like that are really, really important to me. And I do have some expertise in. And the thing that I found most helpful for me as a 31-year-old career changer is that both of you and Ryan and all the materials in higher levels made a very direct correlation between what you were teaching, how to apply and execute on this information, and how that's going to help get you a job that pays you more and can support your family, can give you work-life balance and a rewarding and fulfilling career. And I'm going to be as generic as possible and as diplomatic as possible. But in my previous career, I did find some lacking of that direct connection. Like where a ton of knowledge is being put into my brain, but then it begs the question, well, how is this going to apply to an on-the-job situation? How is this going to make me more literally like $ marketable? You know what I mean? And I feel like there was never that question with any of the material or any of the training in higher levels.
Nice. I love that. And I am curious too, I'm very proud of just like how well you went into this and how quickly you also understood some of these concepts. I think like you caught on very quickly, and also kudos to you. You sort of like knew your value as well, which is very rare for people, going into a brand new career or making a shift. But what do you think it was? Obviously, like we talked about this a little bit before we clicked record, but what do you think it was specifically that made you stand out? I know that you have a lot of perseverance, which I respect a lot, but maybe walk people out there who are going through the same thing. Like, what do you think it was that made you stand out a little bit more, or that made you more successful?
Sure. So I would definitely say all of my interviewers, even at companies that ended up eliminating me after several rounds, acknowledged and complimented the fact that I had prospected into the company. So, I went on LinkedIn, I just typed in SDR, BDR, whatever the exact title of the job I was applying for was. And then I sent a request and then an add note to like a person, like I looked at the SDR's profile and I said, hey, cool about this. Do you have 15 minutes for me in the next couple of weeks to talk about your experience at the company so far? And I did that. I had 43 total meetings with SDR or some AEs actually in seat over the course of my job search. So that really, and most of them led to direct referrals. So I feel like that set me apart. And then almost every requirement that they asked of me, like if they asked for a cold email, I did like a 3-step sequence. If they asked for a cold call, I wrote out an opener script, a small value props pitch, and then some notes at myself, like make sure to send the calendar link and ask if they got it, So, and then like I sent you guys this morning, and if you want to post on higher levels, you totally can. For Twilio segment in particular, I did a self-pitch during my last stage, one of my two last stage interviews, just a short kind of 10-slide thing of, I've been a lifelong seller, I've been a lifelong prospector, lifelong overachiever, talking about my previous career. I used the Twilio segment brand colors. I wore the colors on my t-shirt in the interview because it actually was my top choice throughout the second round. And, so I just kind of went as all out as I possibly could.
No, I love that. I love that. I think it's about showing that you're willing to go to that length, right? Because just by doing these little things, it's funny, like people underestimate just how much you stand out just by doing something as simple as sending an email, sending a message. Obviously, like to the scale that you did it is pretty astounding. So kudos to you on that. Like I had no doubt that you were going to find success, even with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Twilio, because you're willing to go the extra mile, because you're willing to put in the work and all these different things. I guess as closing, looking back at it now, is there anything specific, like maybe like piece of advice to your younger self, or for other folks out there who are considering one, tech sales ascension, or who are considering making a shift into tech sales altogether? Any specific advice that you would give somebody?
Yeah, I would definitely say a couple obvious ones that you guys cover in the course really well. It's a pretty extensive process. Very few companies are going to do, fewer than 3 rounds. So it takes a long time. Persevere. Don't take rejection personally. You are going to get rejected many times. It's like, and if you if you can't take a handful of rejections, sales and especially SDRing is, let's put it this way. Getting rejected by a bunch of companies is a fantastic kind of training exercise for being an SDR, put it that way. But I would also say, I think the thing that you guys really helped me with, and I think you help every single individual student with, is be authentic, be yourself, and create a personal brand. I would say that's something that also stood out about higher levels over other training programs that have a little bit of a kind of mold that they want to fit you in. And I really appreciated the amount of personalization that both of you and Ryan helped me create in terms of being a musician, being a leader, being already a sales manager, being a career changer. And honestly, at the beginning of this process back in December, I was trying to hide all of that. I was trying to sweep it under the rug and be like, I'm a plug and play SDR. But I feel like throughout the process, both in my interviews and with higher levels, you helped me kind of embrace that and sell that, and develop a personal brand and sell that personal brand to my prospective employers. And well, I guess it worked out. So.
Nice. I love that. I think that's what it comes down to is like, the way to stand out is by doing the things that exhibit the traits of a strong SDR. And so when you get to the table, you have this really unique background, and your background is awesome. Like there's so much in there, like both from a persistence standpoint, perseverance, from hard work, right? Like you went through this. This was a huge part of your life, right? And I think people always make that assumption, and it's understanding because they think, oh, like I need to be this perfect fit for an SDR, but in reality, that's what everybody is trying to do. So like, I'm really glad that you realized that, and kudos to you as well. You did it pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm super stoked for you, and obviously, like we really appreciate the time, Jesse. I have no doubt that you're gonna absolutely crush it at Twilio. I would say like you've been one of my favorite students to work with. So hopefully we get to see you more in the SDR Accelerator community and different aspects there. But
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time, Eric. I don't know if you have any famous last words, but this has been awesome.
No, this is great, Jesse. I think your perspective, I think if there's one takeaway of many that we've talked about, it's like for those that are looking to make a career change, like not being an SDR is okay, especially like in your case where you've gone to a significant length and progressed to a very high level in something else. Like just having gone through that process translates very well to sales, and coming in at the SDR level, no one's expecting you to be like the number one person right out of the gate. They love an eclectic background of different stages of life, different personalities, different perspectives. And I'm really excited to see where it takes you. So this was really great, and I appreciate all the intel. So.
Thanks so much, Eric.